Today we're taking a closer look at Bawma from 007 First Light. We'll break down his origins, his rise to power, and the newly announced DLC that expands his story even further. More importantly though, we'll look at what Bawma really wants from James Bond, because I don't think it's help, I think it's revenge. So thank you for joining me, and let's begin. Bawma's story begins long before the events of the main campaign. At the age of 12, Bawma and his younger sister Harmony were kidnapped by traffickers. This experience completely shattered his childhood and defined the person that he would eventually become. At some point during their captivity, Bawma managed to break free and brutally kill his captors. However, despite escaping himself, he failed to locate his sister Harmony. She had basically disappeared completely. So for the next 5 years, Bawma searched relentlessly for any trace of his sister. However, every lead failed. Eventually, after years of failure and growing hatred towards the systems that allowed criminal organizations to thrive, Bawma abandoned any belief in governments and laws. And at 17 years old, he would become a pirate. Over time, Bawma built a massive criminal empire operating across the Western Hemisphere. His greatest creation became Aleph, a black market city hidden within the massive graveyard of shipwrecked vessels along the coast. As ruler of Aleph, Bawma became the largest black market arms dealer in the Western Hemisphere. Weapons trafficking, organized crime, piracy, and underground military operations, everything basically flowed directly under his control. Despite all of this, Bawma believed that the world itself is corrupt, and Aleph represents his answer to a lot of that corruption. So during the events of 007 First Light, James Bond and Greenway would infiltrate Aleph and try to stir up a change of the guard, so to speak. However, Bawma would hear of this and he would quickly capture them and demonstrate exactly how cruel he is.
Easy, girls. Plenty of meat for everyone.
The girls. Of course.
Our old friend was just the appetizer.
Now, before they themselves could be executed, Greenway would reveal that he possessed information regarding his sister Harmony's whereabouts. This would change Bawma's entire demeanor. Rather than executing Bond and Greenway, he released them and actually agreed to help. This would show a unique insight into Bawma and his love for his sister, and how much he appreciates her and her safety. After this, Bawma would become somewhat of an ally to Bond. Although he never fully abandoned his criminal nature, he begins assisting MI6, and a little bit later in the campaign, when Bond and Greenway are completely outnumbered, Bawma arrives to help. So that is basically the story of Bawma in 007 First Light. They made a big deal of his appearance when the game was first announced, so we definitely expected that he would have a much bigger role in the game. But his role was very minimal, and it was kind of tailored to a specific section of the game. And now it makes so much more sense why they created his character and gave his character a lot of promotional time when he didn't have a lot of time or screen time in the actual story. It's because he was going to be leading a DLC that came after. So IO Interactive recently announced this DLC for 007 First Light, and here is the official trailer.
We've received an urgent call from Aleph, James. King Bawma requests MI6's help with a matter most sensitive, and he's asked for you, personally. Our alliance with Bawma is fragile at best, but if he has what he claims to have, well, M figures the reward is well worth the risk. Go back to Aleph and find out what this is all about. Best of luck, 007.
Now, this DLC revisits the Pearl Resort in Vietnam where you trained. Apparently, a new hostile force has seized control of the facility, and Bond is sent in to eliminate the threat and uncover a deep conspiracy that at first many thought were connected web industries. However, MI6 discovers some new mysterious technology that is hidden beneath the resort, and this leads to James Bond facing one of his deadliest enemies yet. Now, what I think makes this DLC especially interesting is the role that Bawma is going to have in it, and I definitely think it's going to be much bigger than the one in the main campaign. I have a theory here, and this completely blew my mind when I was playing the tax sim missions in First Light after I completed the campaign. So obviously, I haven't seen this theory out too much, to be honest, because I think it's a little bit hidden, but this is extremely important. And it's actually heard through a background conversation while you're doing the tag sim missions. I really, really do think a lot of players missed it because maybe you didn't go into it, or you're maybe doing the tag sims with music and stuff like that. So you're sometimes not listening to the actual conversations going on. But during one of the tag simulations, you can hear two workers that are discussing Harmony, Bawma's missing younger sister, obviously. And according to this conversation, Harmony is not alive at all. She allegedly died years earlier. Now, I can't remember if it was through murder or an overdose. I'm actually going to check to see if I saved the conversation. I really hope that I did. If not, this is just word of mouth and you guys are not going to believe me. All right, you guys, coming back to you from the editor's room or whatever. I don't have it. I didn't save it. I'm a fucking idiot. I thought I did. When the conversation happened, I thought I had clicked the little button to save the convo, but I didn't. And I obviously can't go back and replay it because it's a tag sim mission. It was like an NPC conversation. So it's not there, but I promise you guys, I swear, I heard the conversation. If you actually look it up, Bawma's dead sister, there's other people on Reddit and stuff like that. They are also talking about it, but nobody has captured video of it. And this is such a dumbass fucking thing on my part, but I'm sorry. So just know that the conversation stated that MI6 knew that Harmony was dead and they just told Bawma to get out of the situation. And yeah, that's basically it. But that did happen 100%. All right, sorry, back to the video. So anyways, I can't remember again if it was from murder or overdose, but it was connected to like the trafficking networks that she was a part of. So the exact details and everything are basically unclear right now, but the main important part is Harmony, Bawma's younger sister, is 100% dead. This changes the meaning of one of the biggest scenes in the main campaign in terms of Bawma and his friendship and his alliance, right? Because when Bawma captures Bond and Greenway in a left, he is ready to execute them. And the only reason that he stops is because Greenway claims that he knows where Harmony is.
Harmony.
Know that if this is an attempt at deceiving me, I will erase your entire bloodline. Now, one more time.
Harmony. We know where she is. We have a location.
Get them out of there! Now!
Greenway does know where she is. 007 and, you know, the program and everybody, MI6, they know where Harmony is, but they just didn't say that she was dead, right? You obviously see the scene, and Greenway never says that Harmony is alive, and Bawma never asks. He just says okay, and they move on. Obviously, for the rest of the campaign, Bawma assists Bond and Greenway under the belief that maybe they will lead him to his sister, or they will bring his sister to him. But obviously, with Harmony dead, that means Greenway lied to manipulate Bawma, and obviously that seems like something that Greenway would do and something that MI6 would do and something that James Bond himself is going to do later on as he continues to grow. So I personally think that Bawma learned the truth and he clearly heard about Greenway's fate in the campaign, so that only leaves him with James Bond to deal with. And he basically made Bawma look like a fool in front of everybody. So I think Bawma personally contacts MI6 and specifically requests James Bond for a mission, quote unquote mission, but I think Bawma wants James back in his territory to capture him, kill him, torture him. I don't know. So Bawma is playing the long game here. When Bond gets there, he's probably going to pretend that he wants help and kind of catch up with him or whatever until he can get him off guard. So yeah, I think that's what's really going to be happening in the DLC of 007 First Light.